Hi everyone, today I want to show you how to crochet my Ester blanket. Now this is a blanket pattern that I came up with about 5 years ago now, and it's named Ester because I was actually travelling to my grandmother's funeral when I came up with the design, so it only seemed fitting to name it after her. Now this has been available as a written pattern for a while, but I decided it would be nice to do a remake of it 5 years on and give a tutorial for you all. So I'm going to show you how to make this blanket and how to edge it as well. So I will teach you all the techniques that you need to make this blanket from start to finish, and I've also popped a free written tutorial on my blog for those of you that prefer written tutorials. Now I've used my springtime yarn pack and I worked 6 repeats of the springtime yarn pack in this colour order. I've listed the colour order on my blog so that those of you who want to recreate this exactly can. If you're wanting to recreate this blanket exactly, you need to chain 108 for your starting chain. In the tutorial, I'm just going to make a small sample, so I'm not going to chain 108. But if you want to make a 60 centimetre wide blanket, you need to chain 108, and then you need to work 6 repeats of this pastel rainbow. I will show you how I do the edge from start to finish, even though I'm working a smaller piece. So let's grab our hooks, grab our yarn, and let's get cracking. The pattern multiple for this project is 6, so you need to work your starting chain as long as you want it in multiples of 6. Because I'm just working a small sample today, I'm going to be chaining 36 for my sample. And just a quick tip from me, that for your starting chain it's always useful to use a hook size 1 size bigger than you are going to be using for your project. So for my project I'm going to be using a 4mm hook. So for my starting chain, I'm going to use a 4.5mm hook, and that literally just stops the starting chain from being too tight. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chain 36. You go ahead and chain as much as you want, and then I'll meet you back at the end of the starting chain. Once you've worked your starting chain, you can get rid of that larger hook and switch to the hook that you're using for your project. And then for our foundation row, we want to work double crochets, and the first double crochet we are going to pop into the 3rd chain from our hook. Don't forget that this loop on the top doesn't count as a hoop, so we want to go 1, 2, 3 and work a double crochet into the 3rd chain of our starting chain. And then you want to pop a double crochet into every chain of your foundation chain until you've worked all the way along that foundation chain. Once you've worked that last double crochet, you want to chain 2 and turn your work. This chain 2 counts as a stitch, and for the body of the blanket, all of our chain 2s at the end of our rows count as a stitch. So because that first one counts as a stitch, we want to work into the next double crochet along, and we want to work a double crochet, and then into the next 3 stitches we want to also work a double crochet. So that gives us a total of 5 stitches. We've got our 4 double crochets that we've just worked plus our chain 2, that counts as a stitch. Now the next stitch we're going to work is called a back post double crochet. It's still a double crochet, but instead of working into the stitch like we normally do, we want to go round the back. So we want to yarn over first, come round the back of our work and pop our hook in, slide it round the front of that post so we have the whole post around the back of the hook. You can see there, that is our double crochet. You want to yarn over and pull up a loop to the back, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So it's still a double crochet, but instead of working into the stitch, we've worked around the back of it. Then we want to double crochet into the next 5 stitches. Once we have worked 5 double crochet, we want to work another back post double crochet. So yarn over, pop your hook into the space between the stitch you've just worked and the next double crochet, push it round so it goes round that double crochet, pull your loop through, and then finish off your double crochet as normal. And then we want to repeat that process all the way to the end of the row. So it's 5 double crochet, 1 back post double crochet, 5 double crochet all the way to the end, and you end on 5 double crochet, working the 5th and final double crochet into the top of the chain 2 from the previous row. So one last time with your back post, you want to pop your hook in between the stitch you've just worked and the next stitch along, pop it into the space, the subsequent space, yarn over and pull up your loop, and then finish off your double crochet as normal. And what that begins to do is to give those ridges that we see on the front of the blanket. So you want to repeat that all the way to the end of the row. If, like me, you're going to be changing colours every 2 rows, then at this point you want to break your yarn and either sew in your ends or secure your end for sewing in later, so that you don't have to mess about with a loose stitch here. So I secure my ends by pulling the tail through, and just sewing 1 little stitch down the side of that double crochet that I've just worked. And then I go ahead and sew my ends in every 10 colours or so. I find it less tedious than doing them every row and quicker than doing them all at the end. You want to turn your work, so this is the right side. The side that has the ridges on is the right side. So this project has a very definite right and wrong side. If you're not changing colours, you would still be working with your same colour yarn, and you would chain 2 and turn like we did on the previous row. If you're changing colour like me, then you will join your new colour at this point. Now this is the beginning of our 2-row repeat. These next 2 rows are what you'll repeat over and over until you have finished your blanket. So to start the row, you want to join your yarn to your first double crochet and chain 2. That counts as a stitch. Then you want to work 4 double crochet into the next 4 stitches. That's 1 double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. And the more you work this blanket, the easier the post stitches begin to look. So when you're working your right side with the front side facing you, instead of doing a back post double crochet, we're going to work a front post double crochet. It's worked in a very similar way, but instead of coming around the back of the stitch, you want to work from the front to the back, push through so that you have the post in front of the hook at the front of the work. Then you want to yarn over and finish off your double crochet in the normal way. And you can already see that these posts begin to create the ridges and make them much more defined. And again, like we did on the previous row, between each of these post stitches, we are working 5 double crochet. We're at a post stitch again, so you want to work your front post double crochet, go in from the front of your work, push through so that your double crochet is on the front of the hook, yarn over, and then complete your double crochet as normal. We want to work all the way to the end of the row, working those 5 double crochet, 1 front post double crochet to the end, and then working the last of our 5 double crochets into the top of the chain 2 turn from the previous row. At the end of your row, you want to chain 2 and turn your work. Then you want to work a double crochet into the next 4 stitches. Don't forget that that chain 2 counts as a stitch, so we don't work into this stitch here. And then as we have the back of our work facing us, once we have worked those 4 double crochet, we want to work a back post double crochet again. And already by this row, you will find it easier to pick out and pull up on the correct side. 5 double crochet, 1 into each of the next 5 stitches. And then a back post double crochet once you've worked those 5 stitches. You want to work this pattern until the end of the row, and that is our 2 row repeat. I will show you once more because it's nice to see how easy the post stitches begin to be to pick out once you've worked a little bit more. So I finished off that second row and I've secured my end. So this yellow block here is our 2 row repeat, and you can already see the ridges starting to appear from working those post stitches. The further along you get in the blanket, the easier these post stitches are to spot, and the easier it is to just mindlessly work your repeat up and down. So I will recap once more for you with another colour. That we want to join our yarn to the first stitch and chain 2. That counts as a stitch, so we want to work a double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches, so we have a total of 5 stitches. And you will see at this point it is already easy to feel the ridge of your post stitches, so you want to work a front post double crochet into the 6th stitch along. And as you work, you almost want to repeat the mantra that if the front of your work is facing you, it's a front post double crochet, and if the back of your work is facing you, it's a back post double crochet. Double crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. And then a front post double crochet. And this blanket is so tactile that you can feel the post as you're working along. You can feel it coming up. And you repeat this process all the way to the end. At the end of that row, you want to work your chain 2 and turn your work. Work 4 double crochet, 1 into each of the next 4 stitches. And then because we have the back of our work facing us, we want to work that back post double crochet, and by this point you can see that that post is very definitely sticking to the back of the blanket, so it makes it really easy to find it and to get your hook in the right place. And that's what I love about this blanket, is it is simple. It's a simple 2 row repeat. It is simple to do in the, you know, post stitches aren't difficult to get the hang of, because they are double crochet just worked in a slightly different place. And you want to repeat these 2 rows until your blanket is the size that you want it. So if you are wanting to recreate the blanket I showed you in the introduction, I worked 96 rows. So I worked 6 sets of that 16 row repeat rainbow that I had. I was using 8 colours and worked 2 rows for each colour. Don't feel tied to working the pattern. You can do whatever you like with this. I made my original one using variegated yarn, and that worked really well too. So I'm going to go away and I'm going to make my sample a bit bigger, because I want to show you how to work the edging, and showing you how to work edging on a sample this tiny is not going to be much use to you. So I'm going to go away, I'm going to add a few more repeats onto this little sample, and then I'll come back and show you how we work the edge. I've now finished my sample piece so that I've got a little bit more work to show you how to edge with. Now, I like to work pretty much the same edging for all my blankets. I've said this in previous videos. I like something simple. I like something clean and modern. If you want to do something that is different and fancier, go right ahead. But this is the edge that I wrote for the pattern, and I just love the way that it looks. The first round of edging in any blanket is crucial, because if you don't get the right amount of stitches along these long edges, then you're going to end up with either a ruffly blanket because you've got too many stitches, or a blanket that pulls in tight because you haven't got enough. So I'm going to talk you through how to work the first round of edging and also the subsequent 4 rounds of edging, so that you can replicate how I made my blanket exactly. For my edges, I sized down a hook size, so I used a 4mm hook for this project, and for the edge I'm going to use a 3.5mm hook. You may find your tension varies, but generally for me I need to size down for my edging. To start your edge, you want to join your yarn at the top of your work in any stitch. It doesn't really make any difference, just whichever stitch that you fancy working into. You obviously want the right side of your work facing you, and you want to have finished on a back post row so that your top edge of stitches is nice and easy to work into, and you have the wrong side of these stitches facing you. So you want to join your yarn, pull up a loop and chain. For our edges, the chains do not count as stitches. They're just to give us a little bit more height on that first stitch. After the first chain, you want to work a single crochet back into that same stitch. And then you want to single crochet all the way along to the last stitch of the top edge. The last stitch of this edge happens to be the chain 2, so for the last stitch of this edge you want to work your corner group of stitches, and for each corner we are going to work 3 single crochets. That gives a nice square corner to make sure that your blanket doesn't look wonky at the edges. So 1, 2 and 3, all into that same stitch. It can be quite tight because it's a chain, but it's worth it. So there we have our corner. Now this long edge can vary depending on how your tension is. For my tension, I work 3 stitches across each 2 rows. So you want to pop a single crochet into that first gap, a single crochet into this gap here created by the joining of the rows, and a single crochet back around that other double crochet in the row. So just show you again, single crochet into the first part of the 2 rows, single crochet into the little hole that forms naturally in between the 2 rows, and a single crochet back into that space at the beginning of those 2 rows. And you want to work those single crochets all the way along, working 3 single crochets into each 2 rows. Once you've worked all the way to the end of your long edge into this first chain of your foundation chain, you want to work your 3 single crochet corner group. So all into that first chain, 3 single crochet, 1, 2 and 3. And then pretty much like we did with the top row, you want to work a single crochet into each chain from your bottom chain. If you have joined through 1 loop when you did your foundation row, you will have 2 loops to work into here, but because I use 2 loops when I work my foundation chain, I only have 1 loop to work into here. So 1 single crochet in each of these chains all the way along till you get to the corner. Same as we did with the previous corner, you want to work 3 single crochet into the last chain from your foundation chain. And then the same as we worked for the previous long edge, we want to work 3 single crochet across every 2 rows of our blanket. This edge can be a little bit tighter to work the middle stitch into because you're wanting to work into the chain 2 turn. If you struggle with that, you can put 2 single crochets in one part and 1 single crochet in the other row. Once you've worked all the way along that side edge, you're back to the top edge of your blanket again, and you want to work your 3 single crochets for your corner into the first stitch of that round. And then you want to single crochet all the way along the edge until you get back to that first stitch. When you make it back round to the beginning of your round, you want to pop your hook into the first single crochet that you worked. Ignore this chain, you want to work into the top of the stitch. And you want to pull a loop through and join the round together with the slip stitch. And what that does is completes round 1, and you should now find that you have a nice stable foundation edge for the rest of your border to be worked into. Rounds 2 and 3 are worked in exactly the same way, so I will talk you through round 2, but round 3 is worked in exactly the same way. So to start our round, you want to chain 1, and for the next 2 rounds we're going to be working half double crochets. So you want to work 1 half double crochet into every stitch along the edges, and for your corners you want to work 3 half double crochets into the middle stitch of your 3 stitch corner group. So here we have our 3 stitch group, 1, 2, 3. So into the first stitch of the corner group we are going to work a half double crochet. Into the second stitch of the corner group we are going to work 3 half double crochets. And then you want to repeat that all the way along, working a half double crochet all the way around and remembering to put 3 half double crochets into the middle stitch of your 3 stitch corner group. At the end of round 2 you want to do exactly the same as you did in round 1 and join your last stitch to your first stitch with a slip stitch, making sure to work into the stitch and not the chain. And then you can see that I've gone all the way around, working a half double crochet into each and then 3 into those corners. Round 3, as I said a few minutes ago, is exactly the same, so you want to go ahead and repeat round 2, working 1 half double crochet all the way around and working 3 half double crochet into the middle stitch of your corner group of stitches. And I will meet you back at the end of round 3 and I will talk you through rounds 4 and 5. At the end of round 3, you want to join again with a slip stitch to the first stitch in the round, not to the chain that we worked, but to the actual first stitch in the round. And that slip stitch will pull the round nice and tight together and create a really neat join. Round 4 is single crochet, so it's worked in the same way as round 2 and 3, but instead of half double crochets, we are working single crochets. Again, for the first stitch in the round, you want to chain 1 and work a single crochet back into the same stitch, because that chain 1 does not count as a stitch. And then you want to single crochet all the way around, making sure you work your 3 single crochets into the corner groups of half double crochets from the row below. So you want to pick out your middle half double crochet from the group of 3 and pop 3 single crochets into that group. When you reach the end of the 4th round, you want to join with a slip stitch to the first stitch in the round and pull it nice and tight. Like that. And then the final round that I always like to work on my blankets is reverse single crochet. Some of you may also know it as crab stitch. Reverse single crochet gives a great rolled edge on the outside of your blanket, and as it's only used as a finishing stitch, it just makes for the perfect stitch to work on the final round of a blanket edging. You don't need to overthink it. Reverse single crochet is just single crochet but worked in reverse. So instead of working from right round to the left, you work from the left round to the right, and you work round backwards. To start off your round of reverse single crochet, you want to chain 1 to give a little bit more wiggle room, and then into the next stitch back from that chain 1, you want to work a single crochet. Don't overthink this, it is just a single crochet, so you're popping your hook into the stitch, pulling up a loop and pulling through 2. It's one of those stitches that if you overthink it, it becomes a lot more complicated than what it actually is in real life. With this round, you want to work all the way around, and you only want to work 1 reverse single crochet into every stitch, even on your corners. So you don't have a section where you work more than 1 stitch into a corner cluster. You would literally just want to go around and work 1 stitch into each stitch. I'm going to go away and I'm going to finish this round of reverse single crochet, and I will meet you back at the final stitch here, because we don't want to join our round with a slip stitch like we normally do. I will show you how we can sew in these ends to make this join virtually invisible. So I'll finish off this round now and I'll meet you back at the end to show you how we tidy everything up and sew in those ends. Right, so now we've worked all the way back round to the beginning. This is where we started. You want to work 1 more reverse single crochet into that last stitch there, and then this stitch we haven't actually worked into, but it looks like we have because it's where we chained 1 and worked backwards with our first stitch. So you want to work a reverse single crochet over that bump that is created, like that. Then you want to break your yarn and pull your tail through. You can see here what a lovely edge the rolled edge has given the reverse single crochet. It just looks great. So now I have a way of sewing in this end so that when it is sewed in, you have a virtually seamless join. You'll need your tapestry needle and you want to thread your yarn onto your needle. And rather than just working, you know, normally backwards, you want to get your needle, pop it into the front of the first reverse single crochet after your tail and work it diagonally through to the back like that, so it's working in that direction there, and you want to push it all the way through, pull that tail through and pull tight, and then when that tail is pulled tight and sewed in, you will struggle to see where the round ends and where the round begins. And there we have a rather garish example of a mini version of an Ester blanket. Garish colours aside, all you have to do is scale this up. This edge looks a little bit overwhelming on this little small sample, but you can see here on my full-size blanket it adds just a little round of soft grey to complement all of these rainbows. I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, then please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you for another tutorial again soon. Bye!